Hey Candace, I'm going to run through real quick the process of building out these interactions using the instructions for the very first interaction as a guide for this one. So the very first thing that you'll find in the instructions before you'll do anything with the interactions is basically setting up your iSpring so that it has the right fonts. So if you will go to, and this is on your Mac, not on Parallels yet. You want to keep Parallels closed for this portion. So you'll want to go to this folder and download the fonts. Don't know why. There we go. Okay, so now we've got fonts, and you're going to just save them wherever because you won't need to keep them on your computer after this. And then you're going to go to your Finder and wherever you put them, and you're going to unzip the file. I have two because I've already done it as I was making the instructions. And then you'll see the Source Sans Pro, which is the main one, and then the accent one is Old Petersburg Italic. The main one you want to make sure that you have in iSpring is Source Sans Pro, but since you're going to be using Petersburg from time to time, it's good to go ahead and have it in there. All right, so we verified that those are there. We've unzipped them, and then in the instructions you see if you click your Command plus space, then your spotlight pops up and you just want to say font book. You may already know how to get into this. If you do, just ignore this part. All right, and then you're going to push plus, and mine, I already have these, so I can't really do anything, but I'm basically going to open that folder, and I'm going to select all of these, and then I'm going to click open, and then they should pop up in my font book. So once I've done that, I need to restart my computer, which is essential, or else they will not show up in Parallels and in your Windows 10. Once I restart my computer, I'm going to open up a Word doc on my Mac and just make sure that the fonts are actually on my Mac. Because if they're not showing up there, then there's a problem that's going to be reflected in Parallels. So as long as they're showing up in Mac, I can open up Parallels and go ahead and get started. And what you'll notice in each of the tables that I have set up for the interactions is at the very top, I'll have, of course, what lesson it's in and the module too. And then I'll have the specific title of the interaction, which you'll need to use throughout. And then the location of the text, which is still going to be in the text boxes labeled ISI hotspot within the main course content document. This will be a link straight to that hotspot. And then I'll also have the interaction type. There's only going to be two main types of interactions. The first one, which is the bigger one, is an iSpring course that has multiple slides. But even if it's just a single slide hotspot, we're still going to build it within an iSpring course because that's the only way that students will then be able to expand the hotspot to full screen. If it's just a hotspot sitting on its own, they don't have the option to do that. So those are your two types. This very first one that I'm going to use as an example is an iSpring course that has multiple slides. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Step one is going to be the same for every single one that you do. So first things first, we need to open up Parallels, and we need to go ahead and open up our iSpring suite. And we're going to select Course in the left panel and then click New Course. One second. Okay, so here I go in my Parallel, and I'm going to open up my iSpring suite. And you notice that I have options over here. Every single time you're going to choose this course option, even if you're just doing a hotspot, which is technically an interaction. So for this one, I'm going to choose New Course. And the very first thing that I'm going to go do, just to be safe, because these do tend to shut down from time to time, is I'm going to save as. And it doesn't matter where you put it as long as it's on your hard drive. You should not store these on Google Drive. Definitely needs to be on your actual computer. So I have a folder that I've already named Champagne en Rio. And I already have iSpring Interactions folder within that because otherwise it tends to be a little bit confusing. And so I'm going to go ahead and name this the name of the course, or the interaction, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and make it full screen so you can see it a little bit better. And if you go back to your instructions, what you'll see is the next thing we'll want to do is go to the iSprings tab, which I reference a good bit, and that's right here. It should open up automatically in that, but then you'll see the other tabs that are associated with just a typical PowerPoint presentation. All right, so I'm in my iSprings tab, and the first thing I want to do before I do anything else is click on the player button. And it should automatically open up to the layout tab, which is where we want to be. And we want to make sure that the top bar and the bottom bar are the only ones clicked. So we're going to unclick the sidebar. Now you could make some adjustments here, but it's actually a lot quicker to then come to the top bar and make sure this is not selected. It should not be selected. And you want outline to be the only button checked. Right now, it's not even one of them. So there we go. All right. Next thing you want to do is click the bottom bar, and we want to specify what needs to be down there. In this particular case, you will want, since there's going to be a video in the overall presentation, we will need this timing bar and everything. So pretty much everything that's here except for the sound button or volume needs to stay. So I'm going to unclick volume and leave everything else. Okay. In some of them, you'll see that I changed this to just say, get rid of everything except the previous, next, and full screen button. That'll be the case for any of the hotspots or pretty much anything that doesn't have a video. Okie doke. Moving on. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to this colors tab. And we want to change the colors based on the list that I provided in the table. So it's pretty simple and it's pretty similar from one to the next. But you want the background in all cases to be white. Once you put it in one time, it should save under recent colors. We want all of our text to be 595959. And again, that will save right there. And we don't want a border, so we're going to make that white as well. The buttons are going to be a different color. They're going to be the primary color used from Champagne en Rio. And that is B49751. And you'll see that again pop up once you go in to change the rest of the colors. So for the text for the buttons, I want that 59, which is right there, sorry. And then when I change the hover background, my gold is right there already. Same with my text. Now the sidebar pop-ups, this again is going to need a background that is white. And I want my text to match the rest of my text. We're trying to keep this as simple as possible. The hover background can be the gold. The hover background text is going to be that same gray. The selected text is going to be, background is going to be the gold. And then again, the text is the same. It doesn't matter what the hyperlink is because we're not doing a hyperlink and we're also not having a logo, so there's no need to change that. Now the seek bar is right here, so you want to make some quick changes to that as well. You want the background to be that gold, the B49, etc. And you want the playback to also be that. And there you go. So you've got it all switched around. So when you're done doing that, you want to click Apply and Close. And now you're done setting up the entire back end of the course as a whole. That is step 1. Click Save and Exit if you need to take a break. All right, so now we're going to move on to step 2, where we're going to build iSpring course structure. So the first step here is to add 4 slides. We don't have to do anything else to them, just simply new slide, new slide. Doesn't even matter what layout they are at this point in time. So I've got my 4 slides built, and now I'm going to go to Slide Properties, and I'm going to go ahead and label my slides. So I'm going to do Introduction, and this is all in your instructions. Region Flyover Video. And then 3 is going to be our sub-region overview. This is setting up the table of contents, essentially, or the outline, which is what it's called in this. And then the last slide is going to be a summary. The introduction and the summary are not going to be what we typically consider an introduction and summary. It's simply going to be a single slide with a title. And that's because we want to set it up so that these play automatically, but we don't want the flyover video to start playing automatically. Instead, we'd like an introduction to what a title introduction of what they're about to cover, and then some instructions on, click next to continue. And we'll kind of go through setting that up later in this tutorial. Once I've done that, I'm going to click Save and Close. I'm going to go ahead and save my file as well. And that is all for step 2. Now let's move into step 3, where we're going to transfer the text into the hotspot. This can be pretty tricky, so I've been relatively detailed in this particular document. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we're on the right slide, and the slide that's going to be, as we outlined in our slide properties, the hotspot is number 3. So we're going to click Interaction, making sure that we had selected slide 3, and you're going to do New Interaction, and you're going to select Hotspot, Create Interaction. So the third step is probably the most important one, and it's also the weirdest one. Technically, you should be able to click this Text Styles and set the fonts automatically. But the added fonts, like the new ones that you add to your computer, don't actually work in this particular setting. But just in case, go into Edit Styles and just look in your drop down. The main ones that matter are heading 2 and text. So look in here and you'll notice, even though I have the font itself in here, the Source Sans Pro, it's not showing up in this particular list. It's very weird. I've been in touch with iSpring folks, and they say there's just nothing they can do about it in this particular case. But you can change it when we format the text, and I'll show you that in a second. So if you happen to find Source Sans Pro here, then go ahead and change heading 2 and the text to Source Sans Pro, and then the font size should be 20, and either way you can go ahead and change that. Don't worry about the item title or the heading 1. We're actually not going to have a title at the top of our hotspot for a couple of reasons that I'll go over in just a few minutes. So there we go. We've done what we can there. It doesn't matter what the font is. It's going to be pretty ugly no matter what. The next thing you want to do before you start pulling in any kind of text or making any other kind of edits is you want to go to Properties and make some adjustments. First, we want to uncheck the title. We don't want a title there. We want to move our picture position to wherever it needs to be for this particular one. In almost all cases, I'll specify if not, it's at the top. The picture height is also important. We want to set it at this point at least to about 40%. That's going to be adjusted later depending on what the final image looks like. And then we want to change the highlight hotspot option to only on mouse over so that the hotspots don't appear unless the student actually puts their mouse over the picture. We can't change the fact that there's navigation buttons and we want those to be there, so you'll see that you can't actually adjust that. That's actually set in the course itself. Next, colors are going to be specific, and those are also listed in the table. It's very similar to what we had in the other piece. So you'll notice that my colors are already there, so it's not very slow for me to select these. It doesn't really matter what that is because we're not going to have a title. We already undid that. We're going to set our hotspot colors specifically, so don't worry about those. The tooltip background, however, they may end up using that, so we want to go ahead and set it to white if it's not already. A lot of cases it usually is. And then we want our border to be that gold. And then any text, as usual, we want to be the 595959. So the description, the background needs to be white. It typically is, but just in case, check it. And you want to make sure your border is white as well because we don't actually want a border right there. We want this to be completely white so that it blends in with the page itself when it's put into the course. Okay, so let's move down to the description text so that you don't have to change anything later. We can go ahead and change the text color to the 595959. So we'll go ahead and do that to save ourselves time in the long run. This is why we want to do this before we start pulling any text in. Don't worry about the hyperlink. We're not going to have any hyperlinks, so we're good. Audio video does not matter because we're not actually pulling in any audio or video. So we're going to leave that as is. The page background needs to be white. Player background white as well. And then the buttons are already preset. And then so are the colors from the settings that we put into our PowerPoint iSpring presentation, aka iSpring course. All right, so now that we're done with that, we're going to click Apply and Close, and we're all set. This is the most important thing that I'll share. Please, if you come up with a better alternative, let me know. But after doing these so many times, this is what I discovered to be the quickest way to actually pull in the course text. Essentially, you're not going to have any of these three hotspots in the end because we're not using circles and this is not the polyline that we want to use. So we don't want to go ahead and input our text into each individual one and rename them. Instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to pull in our text and all of it into one single hotspot. I promise this will make more sense once we get into it a little bit more. All right, so first thing we need to do, and this is really annoying, is you can't actually pull text from a browser in your Mac and paste it into one of these pages. So you're actually going to need to open up a browser, and you'll see I already have one open, that's in Parallels, and go ahead into the Champagne document where the text is. And I'm just going to pop right into my hotspot. And you'll want to pull the text straight from here. So I'm going to bop down here and take the text. It's running really slowly because oh boy. I don't know why it's doing that. Sorry. Me recording is causing some issues, so let me try that again and do a different view. Sometimes taking it out of print layout actually helps you copy and paste. Okay, let's try this again. I want to take all of the text from this text box. There we go. And I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over to my first hotspot, which I'm just kind of calling my formatting hotspot. I'm going to paste it. You can't paste it without styling. Might take a minute. And the very first thing you'll notice is in doing that, these weird little arrows will pop up. Just make sure you take those out. Go ahead and take these images out. Okay, and I've got some clean text to work with. Looks good. So now, obviously, this is not the font we want to use, but since I put all of it in one page, I am able to select all of the text, come up to the Format Text tab, and unlike the pre-formatting, in this list, I will be able to find both of my, or should be able to find, both of my fonts. So I want to use Source Sans Pro. Okay, and then after that, I want to set my font to 20 if it didn't automatically set, but since we did our settings first, it looks like it's good to go. You can leave some of these bolded. All that came across bolded was the titles, and that'll actually help you figure out where the text came from. It also kept the italics from the pieces that are specific to Champagne en Rio, which is what we want. So you can keep the italics there as well. So really the only thing you should have to do is select all of the text and then change the font. Everything else should be already done for you. All right. So now that I have done that, my text color looks fine too. I just wanted to check that real quick. Now that I've done that, I want to read through the text and just make sure that the edits are there and everything came across okay. Double check that it's good. And then if I'm happy with it, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to delete these two hotspots so that the only one I have is this, and I can actually just name it so that I can see it over here. Content holder or something. And this is the hotspot over here. And since I'm not actually going to use this hotspot, I'm just going to move it out of my way. All right, so that is all that we're going to do for this particular step. We're going to say we're done with that, and we're going to save and return to the course. And the reason we're going to save and return to the course is because we don't actually have the images yet, so we can't really move forward on this one until we have those images set. But what I can show you is that now you'll see a placeholder on this slide of what you've started to work on for this interaction. And anytime you want to get back into this interaction, you can't click anything here. You actually have to go over to the slide and come back into the iSpring 9 tab and click interaction. And it'll automatically take you back into that interaction, which is housed within this larger course. All right, that's it for step 3. I'm going to save, just in case.